Morning.
Okay.
Welcome, everybody, to Senate Economic Development, Housing and General Affairs. It is Wednesday, February 25th, and we are going to be addressing our economic development bill. My hope, again, like as we did yesterday with our housing bill, is to really start making some decisions about what we are fine with, what we have concerns with, and what we're ready to greenlight. So we've heard a lot of testimony on most of the pieces of this bill. We're going to hear a little bit more about the impact study for the outdoor rec businesses. But on the whole, we've heard a lot of testimony on this bill. So we have a new draft with and we have our trusted legislative counsel, Rick Sagel, with us, and we are looking at draft 2.1. We have one committee member online in Zoom, and Keisha, 2.1 has just been posted, and I think have you emailed it to her?
Actually, I'll shoot her an email.
I'll be there in like 10 minutes. I also have Wesley with me.
Oh, you're coming in? Great.
Yeah.
Oh, good. We'll see you soon. And we'll see you soon. Okay, but she's with us. You're with us here for a quorum, so that's good. So Rick,
Yes.
so my hope is with each section that we can just begin to make some decisions on these sections.
Sure. Good morning. Rick Sagel with the Office of Legislative Counsel. And you all have the drafts in front of you. So I can share my screen, but maybe we'll wait until you want to mark it up in case there is markup requested.
Yeah.
Madam Chair? Okay. So there's actually not many changes from draft 1.1 S327. They are highlighted in yellow, the changes that are there. Do you want to go in chronological order?
Yeah. Let's cruise
Okay,
and see where we are on this.
So
the
purpose statement has not changed.
is everyone okay with the purpose statement?
Okay.
Great.
Section 2 is the Vermont Downtown and Village Center Tax Credit Program. No changes, but the bill would up the allocation from $3 million annually to $5 million annually.
That is a decision point. So we have heard a lot about the success of the downtown tax credit program. We know that it leverages almost more than any other. It's one of the few really strong tools we have in our toolbox. And this is a tax expenditure and one that is one of our most successful programs, which we leverage almost, I think it's 17-1 investment in our downtown.
Madam
Yep.
Chair, I would just say for the sake of expediency, I hope sometime this week we're going to have joint fiscal in to do fiscal notes on anything.
We've had this. We have it from we have a memo from Patrick Titterton on this bill. What's in the governor's budget, what is and what are our asks separately. I can have you draft it as a fiscal note if you'd like.
So you want us to make decisions today on what we think is worthy of funding in priority order?
I think that's really where we have to be going at this. We have to be making decisions on the things we care about. I'm happy to hear more about this, but I think this one is really a decision point and we don't have to make it this second, but if there are concerns, I appreciate that there are probably concerns. So I know it's a short section, but it's got lots of financial impact all the way around. Gentlemen, how are you feeling? Thomas?
I'm not seeing the trade-offs. So it's a great program. I just don't know how it weighs against all the other competing interests towards these precious dollars. So I'm not against adding it at $5 million, but I think I need to see it.
Well, it's adding $2 million.
Yeah, sure.
3 are in
the total context. So I'm kind of keeping it in. I don't feel like I have a strong opinion on it without seeing how this stacks up against all the other financial reports.
with Senator Longman, so this we see to stack it up and prioritize.
Okay, so we'll have a money discussion on each section. In theory, though, you're okay with this section, the money is the question, and I'll get, if you'd be kind of Garrett to ask. If we have a memo from Patrick, I encourage the committee and anyone who's listening to review the memo. It's posted on our website, I believe, and Patrick figured it. I'm sure it's. Yeah, we'll double check, and we'll ask him for more than the memo. We will ask for a fiscal vote on this.
All right, section 3. I'll continue.
Yeah,
At the bottom of page 2. This is the small business section, various appropriations to various entities for small business support. Subsection A, no changes from draft 1.1, where the Department of Economic Development, $300,000 will be allocated from that department to support the Vermont Law and Graduate Schools public education offerings and free legal support through Vermont Small Business Law Center. And I'll stop there. You want to talk about that specifically?
well, and then we have, and just you'll be reminded that the federal government actually came through with supporting this program, which is really exciting. And the more money means they can serve more people. And so Nicole Kilburn gave us strong testimony. I thought we have that, and this is a program where she has a wait list. So I think with all these programs, they have wait lists, and that's what we have. That's what we're facing with the downtown and village tax credits is we have a wait list. There are people every year that they can't finance, which just means there's less development going on in our downtowns and village centers. With these programs, it just means we have an opportunity to, with every dollar we choose to spend above what they have been allocated, they can serve more people. So I think that's what we have to take into consideration. In this case, we're looking at 300,000 above what they have been allocated by the federal government. I think that's what we're talking about. And I would have to pull up her testimony to remind myself how many more people, but I think that's one of the things we have to be looking at. But I think it's a significant number of more. So why don't we get through this whole section and then.
Sure.
So this is right.
Subsection B, also Department of Economic Development, 689,000 allocated to the Vermont Small Business Development Center, supporting this work and helping find starting acquire and grow the businesses. This is an increase of 300,000 from the governor's suggested budget, which will allow the center to serve an additional 200 Vermont entrepreneurs and business owners. Right.
And we heard compelling testimony from Linda Rossi on this and the range of resources and help they can provide. They, of course, also refer people to the legal center. It's a network of support that is been very successful and is critically important to the growth of our small businesses in Vermont. So, and then the third piece here.
Yep, is the micro business where 594,000 allocated through the Department of Children and Families to VCAP, Vermont Community Action Partnerships Micro Business Development Program.
That is an addition of, and keep going, sorry, then there's a fourth.
Yep, the last subsection here is the Vermont Professionals Color Network. This is 200,000 through the Department of Economic Development, the grant to the Vermont Professionals Color to continue their support of workforce and business development services it provides.
Right. So what is your thinking, gentlemen, on these various additional supports? Because in each case, these are additions to their current allocations.
I saw,
with the exception of the professional color.
I saw a great deal of value last year. We had a table showing what the budget governor recommends were. I think at that time we had house information, but then just comparing what the governor recommends are and what this would be above it.
That's what I have in Patrick's thing. Could you pull up Patrick's memo and print it out for us so that we have it with us right now?
Yeah, I'm actually right now, and then we can real quick, just the more like that.
Okay, great. And I apologize. We should have had that. I just assumed everybody had it, but I'm having a hard time finding a printout of it in my file as well. So I know it's there and I know we went through it with him. So at the moment, yeah. Anyway, why don't we keep cruising and we'll get this ASAP.
I was looking forward to well. So we are on to
I would just say that the only that Patrick, that the professions of color was got nothing really in the governor's budget. This would be additional. There was something that was allocated to ACCD, but it actually turned out not to be directly for the professions of the Professionals of Color Network. So this is a key piece of funding for them to keep going. So the outdoor rec, we're about to have testimony from them on this. So we, I believe, we're going to have Nick Bennett come in at 10:30 to talk about this economic impact study. So we can, that is an additional 200,000 also that we, but to a very important and growing sector.
So that's section 4. You mean to move on to section 5? Sure. Okay. Section 5 is the Montreal Trade Office 225. The governor's recommend is 150, which would support the Montreal office. This bill would request an additional 75,000 for the Taiwan Southeast Asia office. Madam Chair, the language is the same from last time. There was a question as to how to word this office. Is it actually an office? Is it just a person? I reached out to the attorney, have not heard back yet. So the language is the same on this, on that subdivision 2 on
I think we're hearing from Nick Brimley on this. But he's talking to us at 11, but it's not about the housing bill. In our, it's on, Nick is speaking to us on this very section, I believe. Is that correct? From ACCD, Nick Brimley is. So Nick, Tim is out of the country, I believe, and Nick is going to be speaking to us about the Taiwan ask, which is an additional ask. It's not an office, it's a representative.
Right.
So we will probably need new language.
Yeah, just want to maybe figure out exactly what their plan is so we can write that
Right.
accordingly.
I think when the Taiwan delegation was here, we learned that Taiwan has just allocated $250 billion for investment in the US. And the Taiwanese delegation at Boston is very keen on our anchoring some of that investment here in the here in New England. And they are I chatted about this with Tim, and I believe the ACCD is keen on having a representative in Thailand so that we can actually in Taiwan. Sorry,
Thailand, okay.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about right in Taiwan
Yep.
to really represent our Vermont businesses and have Taiwanese businesses represented here. So I think there is a lot of interest at this particular moment with this substantial investment coming our way. So we will hear more about that from Nick Brimley, who is coming to chat with us about that.
Okay, so we'll skip to 6, section 6 on page 5. That's the brownfield allocation, $3 million allocated for brownfields remediation and redevelopment.
This is a challenging one. It's not challenging for me because I think brownfields are essential for our redevelopment of our polluted lands and areas in our downtowns and village centers where we're wanting to build the housing and develop our economies. And so the governor zeroed out the brownfield program this year, which just was astonishing. We heard good testimony from Tom Kennedy and several others at ANR, and I think sadly it's sort of a chicken and egg. We can't have housing and economic development until we clean up these pieces. So this to me is a critically important piece of enabling economic development. And I think, you know, it's a money issue, but I also know it's not going to happen unless we spend money. So, anybody? Tom, David, thoughts?
I support the measure. The element of the draft bill, but again, so we're all stacked up against each other, conversations, sure.
Okay. Oh, Wesley, well, hello. It's good to have you. Hello. Good to see you. Okay.
I don't like a greeting like that.
Hello, Randy. It's good to see you. So good to see you. We're welcoming Randy and Keisha and let's go for the committee. Okay, so we are now, so anyway, we were just talking about brownfields and its importance, and we will, as we stack up the money, we will have the money discussion as we, as I have said earlier, not been given a sandbox. I think we're at the moment asking for what we want. It's not our job to make the decision about the money. It's the appropriations committee's job. And as Andy has said time and time again, but so our job is to represent the needs, I think, of the state and what we feel are important needs and what we're willing to finance and ask for. I mean, that's our job is to advocate.
But if you prioritize everything, you prioritize nothing. So then you give our power away. So I think we
So
have to
I think we will have a
prioritize.
discussion about prioritizing the money as we get this draft from Pat. Okay, let's keep going.
All right, section 7, some new language here or updated language. This is the business resources and growth study. It was previously a study and a task force. It is now just a study being done by the Department of Economic Development, which that was in the last draft. However, when I went over it last time, there was discussion about ensuring the study includes the stages of growth of business development in the state. So subsection A, the yellow language there, has been slightly edited to ensure that it addresses growth of Vermont businesses, and then subdivision 1 is new. So the first task of this study is to clearly define each stage of business development in order to provide business leaders, investors, and the General Assembly with an understanding of the resources businesses need at each stage of development.
So I think it's a modest nuance here. I think the other piece of this is identify what resources are available currently in Vermont and what resources are needed that are not represented, that are not currently provided. I mean,
Yeah.
and I think we address that later.
Yeah,
We do address that a little later.
so I think maybe even the next subdivision could be amended to get what you want. This is old language, but it's relates to your question. Identify the in-state and out-of-state resources available to businesses and determine how those are communicated to businesses.
Yeah, I think we needed this. Was very good. Right. Thanks. And sorry.
That's okay. So I was just saying, subdivision 2 identifies current resources. If you want to add in something about resources not available or determine what resources are needed. But maybe let's continue on because that might be addressed implicitly later on at the things list. 3 is you create the inventory of resources that you have researched.
Yeah.
4, how to best market and communicate those resources. 5, determine how to improve succession planning for mature businesses. 6, resources available to access capital for businesses. Determine the state of capital access opportunities. And 8, identify investor education opportunities. So maybe there is that missing part, Madam Chair, about resources not available. If that's something you want to.
I think that's one of the key things that we were hoping for, for this task force. So now this, study group in ACCD, I think the key thing is to identify resources we don't, currently offer and that are needed.
What do you mean by resources? If capital access is such a different section.
Well, there may be areas that our businesses are asking for support in each stage of development, from startup to early stage to maturing companies. There may be resources that we don't offer in Vermont that we should be offering in some way, and it would be great for them to identify those. And then we can go about fulfilling that or setting them up or whatever.
So I don't know if that may need a new subdivision, or might be able to, in subdivision 2, identify the resources that are available.
Can we ask Megan? Her thoughts, she's done so much resourcing of businesses.
Megan Sullivan, Vice President of Government Affairs for the Vermont Chamber of Commerce. I think some of this was in our economic development priorities. And when we think about resources, we're talking about access to capital, but we're also talking about just what are the investments the state has made in workforce development and how are we communicating those resources? What are the investments you've all made in housing? When we have businesses whose employees are struggling with housing, are we communicating with the businesses what those opportunities are that they can be sharing? Childcare, I think how we define resources should be very broad because there are a lot of ways that we could be selling Vermont better and making sure people know about those things that we're not doing effectively at this point.
I think it's important to know if our intent is to be very broad, because I think Lyle will take it in whatever direction he'd like to take it, but that means we can't be upset if we were expecting something else. It's just hard, Madam Chair, to know if you're looking for something really specific that
I'm thrilled Lyle's taking us on. I just want to be clear about what we're looking for. And so I think we're also looking for not only an inventory of what we offer, but how we can do a better job, looking at communicating, marketing the resources we do have, to go to Megan's point, and to identify things that we may still need.
And what the resources are should be not just capital resources, but
human resources.
That's just
yeah,
the one piece.
Yeah.
Right. This
Infrastructure.
yeah,
3-phase power. I mean, that's the thing is
there's so much.
there's a lot, and
Yes.
I don't want Lyle to be set up to fail if there's something specific that would be missing.
I think this is great. I just think, anyway, let me think about what that might be. Maybe Megan and I can figure out what would be added.
Okay. So, no other changes in that section about the study. No changes to the convention center task force, which is being given 8 more meetings, 14 from the original 6. Any questions about that one?
What? Oh, this is the task
Sorry, I'm just
Okay.
moving.
The task force chairs were both in and asking them to, and Tom, we have our member who's serving on the task force. And they've asked to extend their work through the end of the year.
Section 9 is the veggie perspective repeal being repealed. In other words, it is set to sunset on January 1 of next year. This would repeal
Can we
the.
go back to the task force for a second? I don't think what UVM is finally developing after 20 years is going to take the place of a convention center, but I do think it would a potential performance venue and other things. I wonder if we should just add someone from UVM to the task force to just make it easier to stay coordinated, because that is the only event center being built that we know of in the next couple of years.
But I'd love one in Rutland.
Well, I'm just saying, like, what this group could then say, hey, we have this inventory of needs that would be met by UVM if you did XYZ. Not to mention UVM was the last entity to look at a downtown convention center of sorts for their needs as well.
Great idea. Sure, thanks. I'd love to add a member from UVM. Or
Can't you already consult, can't you bring in a person from UVM?
I think if you're gonna have that many more meetings, they are the group that's building one. So, I don't know that consulting. I mean, I was on the task force originally to do the event center in UVM, and it's very involved. This group now, if they get their money, will probably start meeting, including with students.
Yeah. So
Bi-weekly.
Nick will also be here, one of the co-chairs. It was Nick was one of the co-chairs. Tom, Nick Brennan.
Yes, sounds right.
And, so I think if you think that would be a good addition, how many you have, I can't remember how many you have. Or 7? Oh, it's good size.
Well,
Could we pull up the original
Yeah.
language?
you
Rick, and
need
then
to
add a UVM.
3-4 seconds. Share my screen here.
And Kara has kindly printed out the memo that Pat had initially done for us. It's missing the downtown village tax credits, but that is,
The 75 per ton.
and the time and the Montreal one time.
That's an older, that's what this before.
Yeah, we're asking them for a current fiscal.
Big game of what
Is this
transition.
the fiscal note?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's what Pat had initially brought us.
Okay.
When we were beginning to talk about this bill, and we wanted to see what was in the governor's recommend and what we were advocating for. Yeah.
So on the screen, these are the members of the task force. You have 2 legislative members, the commissioner of economic development or designee, the president of the chamber or designee, CEO of the Lake Champlain Chamber of Commerce, the president of the RDCs, and the chair of the Vermont Association of Planning and Development Agencies. Or designee. So you have 7 people on the.
Honestly, like none of these people do events or transportation the same way UVM does. Like,
So I think
this doesn't even look out.
so you've suggested we add a member from UVM. The question is, do we add the president and designee? Who would we, Tom, you're the one who works in UVM.
List a name, but
Yeah.
president or designee, but Jeff Shulman, director.
Exactly, athletic.
That would come to me,
Yeah.
so,
Or director of events, but
yeah.
you could say president.
Let's ask Wendy.
President or
Let's ask Wendy.
I can text one.
Let's text Wendy and ask Wendy what we should, who we might ask. That would be great. Okay.
Okay. Veggie Sunset, comments, questions, repealing the sunset?
Okay, are people okay with this? I assume we're all okay. We can sign off on this section. Great.
All right,
Next section.
section 10, also veggie.
Yeah.
This is the enhanced incentive for employee-owned businesses.
We are going to hear from Jessica Hartlaven about this in a minute. And I think she is going to have a recommendation for us on this.
Okay, and if I could, on the one change on page 11 that I made, Senator Hinsdale had a question about employee-owned businesses.
I think it's going to be moved after the conversation.
Okay.
Jess.
I'll have all this information that I will hold.
Oh, wait,
Well, not
let
really.
Cheryl does, because it's all
Well,
for us to know.
The question was, have we defined employee-owned businesses in the law statutes? The answer is no. There is interestingly a section in the VITA chapter that refers to employee-owned businesses. I have it pulled up on the screen here. This is the direct loans authority that VITA has. And there's a subdivision here talking about preference to projects involving loans to employee-owned businesses. So if the term is used, it's not defined. You can see how you can read that or not.
So that the, so
This is the statute on VITA direct loans.
like all it says, it just refers to employee-owned business.
Right. And it talks about how, so it's not defined. And I think that's a
And
choice
nor is
you can make.
I assume workers, cooperatives aren't defined either.
Well, we have in Title 11, we have worker cooperatives, like organized. So that is defined. Employee owned is kind of a umbrella term, right? For maybe worker cooperatives, maybe these employee stock owned businesses. So I guess my answer is it's a choice. You can define it as we have in here as an umbrella term, where you just leave it and have Pepsi determine, hey, we think this is an employee owned business, or maybe it's not. So for now, I took out that there was some debate about the seniority of the vote, that someone who's been there longer has a stronger, so that was
Right.
removed. Maybe I want to hear from you all. So back to the old one person, one vote, would also be a employee company.
Correct.
Yeah.
Perfect. And I would defer our discussion on this until we hear from Jessica.
Okay.
Okay.
Then we have brand new language on page 12, section 11. There was a request to conduct a study to determine the viability or feasibility of a new culinary institute in Vermont. I will read the purpose statement. The state of Vermont lost a significant contributor to its culinary workforce pipeline development when the New England Culinary Institute closed during the COVID-19 pandemic. The General Assembly finds the establishment of a new culinary institute is critical for long-term workforce needs in the food, tourism, and hospitality sectors that are significant for the economic health of the state.
So I fully support,
Yes.
I fully support this. I miss Necky. I miss going to Necky for Church Street and a variety of things. And I see this as an important thing. I'm just wondering if we want to expand it. Maybe it sort of does, but the new Culinary and Hospitality Institute, we're trying to broaden the scope of this.
Well, the real purpose, from my point of view, is the Culinary Institute. We are desperate for this pipeline. All our restaurants need this pipeline for our workforce, and it is in the hospitality sector. We do have hospitality education in both our CTEs. Well, we have culinary CTE too, but we don't have any place in Vermont for them to then graduate and go to get the next certification. We do have some hospitality. And Megan can speak this more clearly, and Drake can speak this more clearly than I can. There is the next level in hospitality, I believe, at Castleton. Is that right, David? And at UVM. So, in fact, I might just defer to Megan and Drake at the moment. We have some. Hi, sweetie. Hi.
Looks hospitality's not getting neglected. I didn't know.
And
that.
I think Castleton is hospitality management, so I think of
Right.
getting into hotel management and things like that. And UVM has a hospitality management program as well, but in terms of that, the culinary piece is significant
And I think
outside of CPs.
I wasn't familiar with those two.
And I think the the culinary piece is a piece of our hospitality industry. So it's a subsection of our hospitality industry, which is, I think, how this is meant to be framed. Is that right, David?
So I would agree with Senator Chinden to include this as an aspect of their study. But I'm wondering why we need to set up a task force to do this. Like we can't task BTSU as part of their strategic.
I've asked them, and I've begun those conversations.
If 12 minutes, we can ask for a strategic plan for BTSU for 4 years. The education committee, we haven't got it yet. This would be a prime aspect of something that they should be considering or not considering.
The Office of Workforce Strategy and Development has actually stepped up to the plate to say they would like to convene this conversation with CCV and BTSU. Drake, may I defer to you?
Sure. Drake Turner, Deputy Director of the Office of Workforce Strategy and Development. Yeah, I think there's a lot of alignment for this task force or study to, have some support from the office. It's an alignment with the State Workforce Development Board prioritization of senators. Hospitality and tourism is one of the 5 priority sectors that the board has identified as needing more workforce. And sort of playing that convening, coordinating role is what you all created the office to do. And we also do have representation from the state college system on the State Workforce Development Board. So I'd be happy to convene, as broad a group of stakeholders as possible. But definitely do believe and would be happy to play that role, as this is something that we know is really important for the state.
The stakeholders, David, are listed on page 13 in number D. And BPSU is definitely a key piece of this, of the stakeholders, obviously.
So there's no appropriation.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't see the Department of Labor.
We can add it.
And I would only support this if we add corrections, because corrections was the last organization to try and do a culinary institute. And they're the closest to a majority of our restaurants in Chittenden County, at least. This was we got very close with this. And that's where I see a lot of promise.
Well, we could certainly ask for DOL and DOC to be consulted. They are surely stakeholders in all this. And it is a great way for us to take our lumps from corrections into really productive work efforts. David, does that, I realize that you're asking
No, I'm
for
not gonna
something else.
I don't want to upset this initiative. I just wonder. I'm wondering out loud why BTSU is already tackling this.
You can't hurt it. It's a make that marble.
It's important for the state. So
The lemon tree, that's.
Yeah, I'm not going to push back on the initiative. I just am wondering out loud why BTSU is not already developing, delivering a strategic plan which would include this topic as well as their subsets.
So
We get nothing. We don't know where they're going with their various plans.
So I like that idea, but not because I'm very supportive of the office taking this on. But I think one of the things we might ask for in terms of what comes out of this work would be the VTSU using this work as a piece of their strategic plan going into the future. Let's think about how we could add that to this. But I think the office convening it is a good one and means it'll happen. I have great faith in that we'll actually get something back and a sort of roadmap for how we might proceed. VTSU is going to be critically important to this effort though, because that's where I began in this discussion was with Joyce Judy and Tiffany Walker, who worked for us for VTSU and CCB. Joyce Judy's in the president. So it is the natural umbrella for it. And I think one of the things we might ask for is in that capacity would be how this might fit going forward under the umbrella of VTSU or something. We could work on language that how would this fit into the strategic plan for VTSU? Could we work on that language, something along those lines?
Sure.
I-
I support the initiative.
Yeah.
I do support the idea of having them also analyze the hospitality industry as far as current coverage. I'm not going to chat.
No, I hear what you're saying. It's
We do not yet have a strategic plan on things.
and
Well, I'm concerned a little bit about, you mentioned that you asked for
4 years.
4 different years for that, and did you get any feedback at all as to why they didn't do it? Was it funded for them to do? Is there any money?
we're talking about Vermont State Universities, which is sort of a separate subject,
It is,
Yeah.
but one that
But
the
it's
Ed
relevant.
Committee is concerned with.
I mean, so it's UVM explored a lot, right? Like just because you explore a culinary institute, they're expensive, they have huge liability. This feels like it's determining that we're going to have a culinary institute at whatever
hope we would.
college is. But we can't.
I think that's the job of this group is to look at what it would take to set one up, and that's
I would recommend we hear from corrections about how far they got with
one.
the culinary institute before we support them. Yeah, we haven't heard from anybody that they like the challenges of creating a culinary institute.
great. So this is an idea that I have.
Is this
there's a
gonna
lot of
take away
support.
from the work that you're doing in other areas? Like, who is gonna manage this?
It's a good question. I think the goals that the board has put forward include a focus on hospitality and tourism as one of the priority sectors. So it's something we're anticipating devoting time on. So it's not like a whole new body of work. You know, surely it will take time to convene folks, but I do think that's something that we would be doing, you know, regardless. So it's a priority of the board. I think I feel confident that we would be able to do it and work closely with the folks identified in this language.
Yeah, I mean, the only culinary institute in the state right now is actually St. Johnsbury.
But there is actually no culinary institute
Well,
that's
so
beyond
this-
CT.
Right, and so the
This one
closest
I can
thing we
say.
have is an actual restaurant.
Well, we have that at River Valley too. We have, we
Is it
have,
open to the public?
we have culinary in, CTE, really
Okay.
good culinary CTE. At the moment, they don't really have any place to graduate into for further education. And we need a pipeline. This is a big workforce development area. The pipeline is dry at the moment.
That's like, we're not disagreeing about a need
No,
for
I'm happy to hear.
culinary artists, but I don't know, this feels like the cart is way in front of the horse. Which college organization should stand up and administer it? How is this group
Well, that's what they're going
going
to
to
discuss.
determine?
Megan?
Ask the question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of Dave, is that if you ask, if you have taken in that, but for 4 years to do this, have you gotten done?
That's a separate
Well,
topic.
it is relevant because if the reason they didn't do it is because they thought it was impractical, but if there weren't the resources.
No, it has nothing to do with the
So not,
culinary.
not culinary institute specifically. You were looking
Right,
for a
right.
broad ranging umbrella strategic plan
Right.
for all the campuses, CCB, et cetera.
But that was that included in
No,
what you asked?
never did.
Okay, never mind.
I just don't know enough about standing up culinary institute.
Well, we don't either, and that's why we're asking them to explore it. Megan, do you have some thoughts on this?
Yes, I mean, under the Vermont Chamber umbrella is the Vermont Independent Restaurant Group and, workforce trained culinary staff is a huge challenge, that is, and especially since NEGRI closed. I think having statutory language that pushes this conversation forward is the opportunity to have sort of like the convention center study to say, what are the challenges that are getting in the way? Getting everybody at the table with excellent food, hopefully, to talk about what are the challenges, what are we gonna need to do? Where is the best? I think that's one of the part of the language. Where would be the best place to have this? Who can we be drawing from? Can we be drawing from DOC? Can we be drawing from, DOL pools, Vermont workforce? Are there other people in other states we could be pulling in? I think the goal of this group is to answer some of those questions, especially where it may be hard to answer those questions in committee now with timing, but say, let's do that outside of the session, bring those people together, answer those questions and come back with sort of a coordinated, here's what the thought is.
Yeah, so I'm willing to call it culinary education or something, but I mean, higher education is changing away from bricks and mortar as we speak. If someone, like we visited the police academy, right? And
I'm happy.
no one can spend 16 weeks probably training on site.
So this is a key piece of work.
Okay, but we're looking at this for the first time.
I appreciate that.
For an opportunity vote.
So I would be happy to hear from DOL, happy to hear from Jay Ramsey on this, happy to hear from whoever in direction was involved with that culinary work. Happy to hear from a couple of key people. We'll hear from a couple of key people. This is the first time you guys have seen it. I've certainly shared my thoughts about wanting to do this. And I think we found a group that was willing to continue the conversation and convene the conversation, which is exciting because we've been missing this for 5 years. David.
No, I do. I agree with Senator Robbins still about just deleting the word institute and inserting the word training, what have you,
Pipeline work.
with hospitality.
We'll think about that. I'm happy to bring some people in, what we really, and that's what they'll determine. What do we need? What kind of person?
Thank you.
I'm catching a cold.
Great, okay, so we will identify some key players in this and identify the key needs, and Megan and Drake, we might ask you for some help on some of those, witnesses. Okay, Rick,
Yes. That's, so
I
that's,
think that's it.
yes, the effective dates is the last section, no changes there, so
Right.
that is the draft 2.1.
Okay, so we thank you very much. The, the piece we have from Patrick at the moment, it doesn't include, yikes, that phone.
Oh, no, that's the book.
Has some of the sections that you see. So we could maybe talk about the sections that are here. We can wait for Patrick to do a joint fiscal note, or we could look at what's here. And you guys want? While we're all having fabulous food, would people like to wait for Patrick's joint fiscal note? Wesley, are you going to chat with them?
Do you want all
Are
of
you
that at
going
once?
to chat with them? We had, planned, I mean, I had really hoped we would have fuller discussion about each section here. We could, it's the committee's pleasure, we could take, yeah, I just looked at, talk about these sections and see where your support is at the moment. We can, it sounds like a lot of it comes down to money. But you have the money in front of you in terms of what in the governor's recommend and what we're asking for in addition.
And this doesn't have the downtown tax credit.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. I just said that. It doesn't have that tax credits or Montreal or Taiwan. The one thing we didn't talk about is the
For brownfield.
yeah, and it doesn't have brownfield.
There's nothing that the governor's recommended from this.
Okay, no, I know, it's just hard to, is this the governor's? This isn't even,
Yes, it is. The governor's recommended.
It's a matrix, so we had
The
to,
matrix.
okay.
then we need a call for what we're recommending or what's in
Right.
the current bill.
So why don't I work with Patrick to get that, and then we will have.
So we heard from Weiwei about that this isn't even accurate, 60,000 is not accurate.
The 60,000, I said that.
Okay,
The 60,000 is not
We have a
professional.
right, but we have a recommendation.
We have a recommendation from her for 200,000. She's been in here. She has given us a very good memo describing what the need is and why it's so important to them at this moment.
And so is this housing and economic development?
No, I don't know why VHIP is here.
Because I have thoughts on VHIP, not the amount, but the.
We do have VHIP included, but not in this bill. It's in the housing bill. It's in 320. So, and it does have the Montreal trade office in it, but just not the Taiwan one. Because it was before they added it. So, I think it might make the most sense to wait until we get Patrick's joint fiscal note. And that, are there any sort of, now that we've gone through it, I've got.
But does he have all of the requests that have come in?
He does.
So he had Weiwei's memo.
Yeah. And I would encourage all of you to refer back to Weiwei's memo, which is good. And if you don't have it, we'll get it to you. We have memos from every one of the people that, and we've had great testimony from them. And, Nick. No.
Oh, I'm replacing.
Intern. No, I'm just, we are, at our next, so I think I'm a little stuck here at the moment because I was hoping we would have fuller discussion of these sections. And maybe independent of the money, we could have a discussion of how you're feeling about the section. So if we put money aside, what do you still need? I think I'm clear on the Culinary Institute. We need to hear from a few key players on the Culinary Institute idea. But other sections, what do you still need to hear? How are you feeling? Is it just the money? I have the feeling for the downtown tax credits, for example. It's the money that you're weighing, the $2 million difference between the governor's ask and what what the need is. The need could take as much as we can give it, and it's an amount I know the department has wanted to take those downtown tax credits up to and just hasn't been able to get the governor's budget team to go there.
I just want to make sure nothing gets lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
If the common good request that we heard from, is that in this right now?
No,
or-
it's
okay,
not.
okay.
And the amounts are different, right, for the micro business, this has different amounts of shares.
Right, because some is in the governor's at recommend and some, and it's 300,000. It's
Yeah.
a certain amount above, and that one, it's not particular.
I don't think I can
Yeah, well,
do anything without even like a total. It's like, there's, you know,
okay, but you have most of the totals and you have the ideas. So the ideas is what I'd like to discuss. Yeah, Jay.
Okay, you mentioned that we were hearing section 4, the outdoor rec economic.
Yeah.
average. I don't see it on the schedule because I'm wondering if they are coming back here today or at some point in the next couple of days.
They are coming. There it is. Nick Bennett is it's coming at 10:30. Thank you. So. Are we just talking about, I would encourage us all to identify the memos from the people who've done this ask so you can review them. Common Good, Thomas, or are you wanting to ask us to consider including Common
I
Good?
hear there's traction and support in the House, so I'm wondering how this, I didn't see anything wrong with what was presented. I certainly see value in supporting the nonprofit communities out there and focusing on consolidations and mergers. I guess my question would be, how does this usually work? So if this goes forward with the Senate without this, the House gets it, but is there a similar bill in the House that we're just gonna try to sync up?
They don't, they're waiting for us for an economic development bill. There's certainly something we could add it to. If you'd like to add it here, I am open to it. It's just that this draft doesn't have it. The ask is remind us for how much,
So
because we have this memo from Emma's right behind you.
I have the memo in front of me, so I think they had asked for about just shy of 300 for one time, and then they did ask base funding. I'm brutally honest, I think that's a big ask
Yeah.
for first time request, but it seems like something that we need to look at with the federal landscape shakeup.
And here.
You know, we did the red, yellow, green in terms of an idea. We almost ought to have an idea in terms of funding priorities of how much. You know, if you took all the funding priorities that we have and that every other committee has somewhere, and this is really a pro's job, but we have an opinion. And that is you start from the top with who's first priority, most important thing to do. And if you look at all of these things, what's the most important thing of all the things we have to do? And then fund accordingly down the line.
Well, that is what the discussion in front of us is. That's what the discussion we have. I mean, we're now very clear. This is not a big bill. It's very clear on the sections we've heard from everybody. I think that we would need a very specific number from Common Good for us to go forward. And maybe Emma, would you like to speak to that? Do you have, we have their memo, a terrific memo we looked at, but I mean, a realistic ask at this moment would to include in this bill, given that we're looking at a range of in terms of supporting our business support. $200 or $300 is sort of where we are in terms of the other asks.
definitely understand.
So Emma, why don't you introduce yourself and chat with us about it?
Further.
Let me good
Yeah.
sit here. Yeah.
Alright.
Make it very better, see you better.
Thank you.
Kids get worse, they get worse in their teens.
Appreciate it. So, for the record, I'm a Paradise with Common Good Vermont. And I definitely understand that for first time request, even face funding is a long time. So we would definitely really appreciate even one-time funding.
It's not our job to figure out where it's one time or base.
Yeah.
Our job is to do the app and to say, this is an important sector that we care deeply about. That's incredibly important to the growth of our businesses. Nonprofit sector is a huge piece of our business here in Vermont, and we support it and fully, and how can we better support it? So that is what we need from you.
Yeah, I think, the ask that we have in one-time funding for the technical assistance is 295,000. And that does include nonprofit task force and the cross-sector convenings. But 75% of those funds would go towards technical assistance for nonprofits. So really the bulk of those funds would go directly to organizations. That's 221,000 for the technical assistance, flat out without anything else included in that. But yeah, I think for 300,000 would be part of those.
What's the benefit? Seem first blush, looks like we're adding a layer of nonprofit bureaucracy on top of all the nonprofits. We already attend to nonprofit interests throughout a variety of different bills. What's the benefit to the state?
I think addressing some of that bureaucracy is really the benefit, in that a lot of this funding would go toward organizations who are exploring mergers, consolidations.
Why can't they do that on their own?
It's really difficult to do that in partnership work without additional outside funding. The examples that we've seen in the state so far, Big Brothers Big Sisters of Vermont recently merged with Big Brothers Big Sisters of New Hampshire.
Sort of like the visiting nurses.
Yeah, so they were on the verge of having shut down. They had external private funding that they were able to access to support the merger process, and were actually able to grow their services and presence here in the state of Vermont through that partnership. And so I think it's examples like that, and the area agencies on aging, who have also formed a shared services model where they're seeing cost savings through shared benefits, shared administrative services. And so while still maintaining their independence and presence throughout the state. So I think really this proposal would support that sort of movement towards a more sustainable and efficient nonprofit system that would not be possible otherwise.
Thomas.
I guess what my concern, I think we have too many nonprofits, and my worry is what I'm seeing on the landscape right now is that these nonprofits, if they're playing that metaphor, they're gonna crash and burn because they're running out of fuel. Whereas I do see value in if we can gracefully have them land and possibly then change ownership and title to consolidate their back office services so that public dollars and philanthropic dollars can go further.
Well, it's like a business, you know, why
It is a business.
why should we?
Nonprofits are business.
Sure. They are, so some survive and some don't. And for the state to get involved in assisting in those initiatives, I'm just not sure it's best use for money. I'm just trying to understand what the benefit is, like what does the state get back in return for this investment?
Well, the state gets back in that 1 out of every 5 Vermont workers works for a nonprofit.
That's not enough, no, Chair.
No, and I'm just trying to say this is a big business sector in our economy. And as Linda Rossi said, I don't believe Linda's able to provide, for example, the Vermont Small Business Development Center, David. I don't think they're able to give their services to nonprofits. So and that is I think I was stunned to learn that. I do believe the legal center, the Vermont Small Business Legal Center, is certainly able to give its advice and counsel to nonprofits, I believe.
Yes, and they do to some degree. We're partnering with them and others also on a legal hub initiative where we're actually scaling up lawyers in areas of nonprofit expertise, including mergers, alternative business structures and things like that. So we have CLE coming up this spring. So we're actually growing the number of attorneys who are able to access organizations in that area.
Do you have access to Vermont legal aid?
They serve individuals.
Yeah, they don't.
Okay, not businesses, nonprofits.
Well, nonprofits are business.
Okay,
No.
just looking to see if they're.
Yeah, I think they just serve individuals.
Okay.
So what other sectors of resource, to go back to our inventory resources, what other resources are you cut out of as nonprofits? What can't you get? I know you can't get Small Business Development Center help.
We are the state nonprofit association.
Right.
There have been, some grant programs that have allowed, sometimes they've actually not excluded nonprofits, but otherwise, most technical assistance in the state is focused on for-profit businesses, or municipalities.
Right.
So I think there's a gap that we're seeing it out.
Right, and it's a, yeah. So thank you, Dave.
Does your organization charge a fee to your members?
So we have members, but we are a fee for service organization. We receive no public funding currently.
Have you considered asking for a fee to do exactly what you're asking the state to fund you to?
So we have a network of consultants that we work with. We're a very small team, so we don't have the in-house capacity for
You
fees.
don't
but
currently because you're not funded,
right.
but you would potentially, to your point, grow to adapt that, to create that capability. Why not ask your organizations to self-fund so you can manage the type of graceful
Consolidation.
yes.
All due respect, our budgets are pretty limited and still currently.
The salaries aren't that limited, but, you know, you check a lot of the nonprofit salaries, there's a little margin in there to take
Well,
care of yourself.
But there's a range from UVM, which is a nonprofit, to Pentangle and Woodstock, which is a nonprofit. I mean, there's a, as we all know,
I get
there's a
that,
big
but
range.
if they haven't even asked there to do what you're asking the state to do for you, to fund for you, why not first ask your own organizations to start doing that effort on their own initiative as opposed to asking the state to fund it for you? I'm just,
Yeah,
I'm just trying to ask some of the more challenging questions that my constituents would ask of me.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So currently, when an organization comes to us with a question or inquiry or a challenge they're seeking to address, we typically refer them to a private consultant who they pay out of pocket for those services. But really, I think when we're talking about being proactive, when we're talking about making sure that we're looking towards the future, that we're not having emergency situations, I think this is the sort of thing where additional resources to support that effort are really critical to.
so when you, for example, I've experienced you in the past, when in sort of the precursor of Common Good, as a board member of a lot of nonprofits in the past, we have often gone to you provided trainings for how to be a better board member, how to you know, for all the jobs in nonprofits, you provided training. I assume you still do those trainings, and I assume you do charge a fee for those.
Yes,
So I think that's going to David's question.
Thank you.
You do charge a fee for those.
we do, yes, our certificate programs, our webinars, those are all fee for service. We try to keep them accessible to organizations, but that is primarily how we generate revenue for our organization. But that doesn't cover, 10 hours of one-on-one technical assistance for an organization. That's a different topic.
Right. So, Thomas, you're wanting to, for us to consider adding this to the bill, adding supporting common good to the bill. And at what level would you want to consider this?
Sure. So I say the one-time funding seems like a reasonable approach. I share some of the concerns that Senator Weeks is highlighting, and that it's important to me that this be focused on ways to consolidate the nonprofit sector, not necessarily support the currently fragmented industry. And I just didn't want it to be lost in the shuffle in the context of all the other asks. So this is something we took testimony on. That's what
Yeah. And I appreciate that. Randy and David, would you be willing to at least look at this at perhaps a little less, maybe not 300, but at either 100 or 200,000 for consideration anyway?
For the senior center.
Well, I'm unenthusiastic, quite frankly, because of the amount of money involved. Just doesn't hit me as a priority in kinds of things you need to put in priority. And it's always difficult in this situation where there's no effective guideline as to how much money there is spent.
We're not gonna have that. I know, we're just not gonna have that. So
Well, we absolutely have to keep in mind, everything we do, the value to the taxpayer.
right,
And that's what I'm concerned. It's not so much the priority of what we have to spend or how we do it, because that largely falls to another committee.
Right.
But
So,
as I say, I'm not tremendously enthusiastic. I mean, it's not that you do bad things. I'm not saying that at all.
you do good.
But what I am saying is that we have to exercise a degree of judgment as to how we spend money, even though we are an intermediary in the spending process. But every time we have a constituent who says, how are you spending the state's money? We're accountable for that.
So, yeah, so I would suggest actually that this bill will hopefully make it to the House and that you give the House Commerce the time and get on their agenda early as they take this bill up. And that you make your pitch because it can always be included in the House and added onto this bill. And then we can negotiate it further in a conference committee. I think that at this point that probably, and we're going to have a challenging enough time among the five of us agreeing to what we are willing to pass out of this committee at the moment. So as you've already heard. So I think that at this moment, I would boldly propose that you make your case in House Commerce and take it from there. I fully support your work. I think you do excellent work and it's much needed work. But you have not had state funding before, and that may have been appropriate in the past, but it's actually, I don't think, ever been asked for. So for a first time ask, I think that the House would be a great place to start that. So Emma, thank you for your work and thank you for your advocating for this sector because it's such an important sector. And we forget that every one of our colleges is a nonprofit. Every one of our arts organizations, historical societies, libraries, those are all our nonprofit businesses. So it's a huge sector in Vermont and one that we all rely on and a little bit take for granted. So it's, I really appreciate you putting your stake in the ground and saying, okay, we're important now, help us in some fashion.
And I think the other thing would be, as you look at the House, and this could be a place to do it too, where we not so compressed on time, is think of the way that you presented it to us, and you think of what other folks could present and add a different perspective, a perspective that would be more likely to make skeptics into advocates.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, Emma.
Thank you.
Are we wrapping up on,
Well, I had thought we would be making more decisions and I apologize. Patrick's stuff up in Ways and Means, not surprising, because they're under the same deadline. Yeah.
so if the bulk of the conversation's over about 327, I do have a question on 327.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I would like to see if there's support within the committee to relieve the Senate Transportation Committee of S-287, which is a bill that I introduced and has 4 of the 5 committee members as co-sponsors for an act related to studying the construction of a self-funding limited access highway replacing Route 22A, linking Burlington, Virgins, Middlebury, and Rutland to Interstate 7,
Which has a big economic impact.
which has a enormous potential economic impact. Unfortunately, the Senate Transportation Committee is a bit too blocked in their time and don't have the availability of time to consider. And I'd just like to roll it into the bill to see if there's traction as it moves into the House, to give it some life. And it's a study. And really the study is about how do we, with future, evaluate the construction of limited access highways throughout the state, not just Interstate 22A is the shock value.
Remind us where 22A is.
It links,
So my parents live in Poultney, Vermont, and I drive that road a lot, and I fully support this because 22A is this windy, it slows down, there's trucks truck routes, so you're always stuck behind a truck.
It runs north, south
Basically Virgins straight to.
Virgins down through Fairhaven.
to Pulteney.
And if you're living in the Burlington area and you go to New York City, you go 22A here. So it's just a major route for getting down to that metro.
North, south.
north, south.
And where does it begin?
But the,
Virgins.
but the concept is to link to go further north into Burlington, run down roughly on the parallel of 22A, but pick up Route 4 coming out of Rutland, and stops at the New York border, run through New York for 22 miles to out to 87.
It joins at Port Anne.
Fort Anne, no, bottom of Lake George.
That's Port Anne.
Glens Falls.
Port Anne. Okay, down to
Fort
Queensborough,
Anne's a
so it
little,
keeps going
there's
south.
another 7 miles to.
Usually you can cut right at 4 and head over to Whitehall.
Who is doing the study for you?
Well, there's a
Is
recommended,
AOT doing the study?
no, it's, AOT would lead. They'd be the lead dog in this sled.
So we're,
But it's, for example, the mayor of Burlington, the chair of South Burlington, the mayor of Virginia, the chair of Millbury Select Board, the mayor of Rutland. the
so it's not a
RPC.
legislative,
There's a couple legislators.
The building, want to see it on the screen.
sure, let's take a peek at it and,
I just want to see if there's any, because it's not gonna live if it's not embedded somewhere.
actually, that's not fully true. I mean, they could also add it to the miscellaneous transportation bill they're getting from the House.
That's true.
But we can certainly
It
jackhammer it here.
stimulates the conversation.
It does stimulate the conversation, and I'm willing to take a broad view of economic development. Transport is a key piece of our economic development, infrastructure. So, Rick, would you like to just run us through it from here?
I can read the words on the page, but I didn't
No, but
grab that.
David, why don't you go through this? Because we've got the creation of the task force. You're charging AOT with it, so it's not a legislative task force that requires legislative council. Is that right?
That's great.
Okay.
We need it for the
Thank you, Alan.
administrative support.
Yeah, Davey drafted this on, looking at this for the first time.
Yeah. My apologies for the pop-up. I was gonna talk to you offline, but since we had 15 minutes.
Yeah, no, we
reset.
actually do want that. This is good.
Okay, so AOT is the lead, two members of the House, 2 members of the Senate, and then trying to get the regional political leadership
Yeah,
involved
very
at the
important.
town level, and then the RPC representation
Yeah,
from the town or from the regional level.
yeah.
And then so the key is looking at the potential to construct. And then in this, again, for shock value, looking at 22A specifically, because it's probably in the worst shape. And it's a potential economic corridor feeding Burlington from the west, which is huge.
The south and west.
Well,
Because-
south, they've got
Right.
89, 91.
And the west is the lake, so you basically go down there.
Going up. Are you driving?
Yes, I'm driving. Gas or just.
Okay, so, what is, essentially, just tell you, what is 22A now? What is it service? What is it not service? Looking at potential routes, there are some perhaps of routes for replacement of 22A or for the access it more appropriately into Chittenden County.
Has there been any study of 22A in the past in terms of expanding it or?
Only for increase, straightening out curves, increasing breakdown lanes,
So-
signaling, that's it.
So no review of what it might be.
Nothing for a limited access.
Virginia has spent a lot of time in trying to look at a bypass. It's almost all at the local level.
Yes.
Got it.
And then there's a major section here is how do you fund such construction? Okay, so the idea is look at Easy Pass. And Easy Pass is used by Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, New York, and a variety of other states. And it's self-funding mechanism. You use the asset, you pay for your transport, your movement across that road. What everybody else is doing.
So that would be part of the study. Is
That's part of the stuff. Yeah, the idea is self-funding, not to ask the feds to build it. Although
Importantly, this is a commercial truck route, so there's constantly big rigs. They pay a higher premium for Easy
yeah,
Pass.
so I'd like you just to step back for a sec and take a look. The whole corridor from Virginia to Bennington was built in the railroad era. where railroad was king, and that's how we move our goods. And in that timeframe, those towns were quite economically active, contributing to our economy. Well, in the 20th century, 21st century,
But we still have
highways-
railroad. Railroad is still moving some of those.
That's correct, but it's a minor fraction of, and that's all part of this analysis. How have things changed? How has it affected the economies of essentially half the state? And could this be a potential benefit, economic benefit to the state? That's the nature of the study. And the answer could be too hard, too expensive, insufficient.
But let it, give it some air,
Give
give it some light, give it some serious consideration. I am, happy to think about including this, particularly as we have, in all our efforts to not put more pressure on the budget. This is run and managed by AOT
Right, minor.
and convened by AOT, just like we tried with the Culinary Institute to get the
The
office.
Culinary Institute being included in the bill is what just prompted me to say, hey,
Yeah, but-
let's look at
Yeah.
big levers as well.
I am happy to consider including this, although I will say that you have other opportunities, but that would be it when the miscellaneous transportation bill comes. If it doesn't get included in that, then
I agree.
yeah. So I think including it in this may mean that it gets further consideration, obviously, in transportation, and might get because this will then send the bill, or at least that section of the bill when it gets to the House, to transportation, which is fine.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Thomas and Randy, what are your thoughts?
I'll just say, when I was on transportation, I was called Tommy Toll, because I do think tolls are the ways to go in the future. Electric vehicles just aren't paying at the pump in the other way that all of the states
Paying
around
another
us. Sure, but the other states, use-based assessment is
Yeah.
a fair way that we achieve with gas taxes that we are not with electric vehicles, which are predominantly charged at home, where you actually want to subsidize that because it's easier to manage. So I do support the tolling aspect of this. I think it's something we need to look at over the next 50 years. And with the technologies today, that doesn't mean a guy or gal sitting in a booth all day long. It means license plate recognition and assessing based on frequency of use. So it's very feasible, and I definitely fully support this. I'm sorry the transportation has been able to take it up, but it's well worth our collective state attention.
So independent of the tolls, the whole piece of the importance of making this a more effective connector for economic development and for the world.
It is effective. It is widely used. It would be more widely used or easier to get on and use.
Has the same study been done about Route 7, given that Route 7 is the primary north-south corridor on the west side?
That's one of the comment I was going to make is that you're bringing Burlington and South Burlington in, which really means Route 7 down to Virgins. Is why I'm all for Chittenden County, but I don't know if we're really talking bringing it on 22A if you need the mayor of Burlington and South Burlington chair. But
So the idea is to stimulate the conversation about how do we fund, how do we prioritize new limited access highways. Route 7 is another classic example. The connection between Bennington and Troy, New York, or Route 87 is another classic example. The linkage between Rutland and 89 there's so many examples. To avoid the conversation, I think would be continuing to do a disservice to.
I just think the regional planning committees might be the better place than the mayor of Burlington and the chair of South Burlington.
They're all in.
They're-
The RPCs are in, and they're all willing to talk. They want to contribute to the conversation.
So we don't have a huge amount of time, as you know. We would probably need at least, is Joe Flynn willing to testify? I mean, are we getting, if you could come up with 2 or 3 people to testify on this, that would be great. And we will make some time for it on Wednesday next week, and then we're gonna have to make final decision that we'll get Pat Titterton. Hopefully we'll have a joint fiscal note to us in the next day or so, and we may have to take some lunchtime in the next week. So we just have too much to get through the hose. I think unless Megan or Drake have anything additional you'd like to add before we end for today. I mean, we're gonna start at 10:15 again with Jessica Hartleben on, the enhanced veggie piece.
I would just say, I love this idea of the 22A study. I was part of the freight plan advisory committee, so the state plan about what we're gonna do about freight that they update regularly over the summer, and the problems around 22A, moving freight on 22A came up a number of times in those conversations. So I think this is timely moving on what that group talked about as priorities for freight in Vermont.
Is that an ongoing committee, the freight discussion, just as it grows?
This is for
I mean,
their
if we invest
updating.
more
If
in
they
getting
update
our-
their plan, it's, they get input on that plan, and so I think it's a standing group of us that provide feedback.
Yeah, I mean, just that we try and funnel more money into getting our rail upgraded again so that it can actually be.
Yeah, well, and it's freight in terms of rail and, any of the programs, so
All
traffic as well as rail traffic.
So if Tom, I think the three of us are supportive of including this. And if you would be kind enough to work with Kiara and Randy and me on witnesses. That would be great, and we'll work on that. I've made some space, time for it on Wednesday next week. Okay,
So 6 minutes left. Does the Fuel Dealers Association and the transportation sector have any strong opinions about 22A?
Build it.
Build it. That's what he says. Okay.
it's built. You mean improve it? Thank you, Matt. Matt, are you here for a reason? And do we need to hear from you at the moment?
No, you breeze past my veggie very quickly and
We're about to hear from Jessica. Oh, the which part of veggie, the sunset or the
moving the
enhanced?
sunset.
Are you supportive of our supporting getting rid of the sunset? Thank you.
You want to say your name for the record?
Matt Goda with Meadowville. They have a great Burlington Industrial Corporation.
Thank you. Anybody on anything that we've already discussed? Drake, Megan? Okay, great. I think we're in good shape. I think what would be great is to get one or two witnesses on the culinary, who you think would be the best on the Culinary Institute. And that would be terrific. Thanks. And so with that, we're going to take a break and we will reconvene at 10:15 to continue.